Is Jump Force worth buying? Today we are going to find out. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly for Jump Force. I've had the game for around 4 days in early access, so I pretty much got the gist of how this game is. Now before I continue, some things are subject to change as this was the early access and not the official release, so there may be patches coming to the near future, but let's continue. I've beat the game. It took around 17 hours, and within those 17 hours I can tell you there is a lot of flaws in this game. There is a lot of issues in this game, but there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Just a little light. Not too much, but it's there. Let's start with the good. The visuals. Obviously, this game looks pretty nice. You can tell where they put their budget, which could also be a bad thing, but we'll get into that after. But yeah, the game looks fun to look at least in combat. It looks like a fun, fast, flashy action kind of game. The next thing I would put under the good list would be the actual battles. It's fun with all the shonen characters clashing together, so it's fan service. That is every weeb's dream. Now the gameplay isn't too deep. It's similar to the Storm series / Xenoverse, so it's like a merge between the two. And as this was pretty much a sequel to J-Star's Victory Versus, I can say the combat in this is better. This game focuses more on 1v1s with tag teams on the side, whereas J-Stars 1 had 2v2s and 3v3s. The final thing I can put on the good list is the character creation / customization. It's decent, so it just barely made it to the good list. There's plenty of cosplays you can do for characters that weren't in the game, so that's kind of fun if you're into that kind of thing. But it's not the best. It's lacking in some of the clothing departments, so it needs a little bit more. But I'll leave it in the good, because there is no decent category in this. It's only good, bad, and ugly. Moving on. Now, in most fighters, that's all you really need to know about. Is the fighting good? Yes? Okay, I'm gonna get the game. Who cares about the story mode? No, it's different here. You gotta know everything, because it all ties in somewhat. Let's get to the bad, because that was all the good. And that's all there is for the good. The fighting, the visuals, and a little hint of character creation. Moving on to the bad. This game needs polishing. It is poorly optimized. It feels like there is some slowdowns in the game sometimes, which is bad for a fighting game because you need consistency in a fighting game. Input delay and lag is everyone's nightmare for a fighting game. So that's kind of bad. But it's not ugly because it's not always there. It's just sometimes here and there you might see a bit of, ooh, what is this? Nani? This game is not a locked 60 frames? Also, the hub where you first land in also needs some polish because it feels like the entire game and cutscene has some kind of slowdowns for some unexplained reasons. Maybe it's because they put so much focus into the visuals and not so much in the performance, which should be the other way around when it comes to fighting games. Even in the character selection screen, you can see lag when you're scrolling through the characters. The game needs some polish, and I'll get back to this for the ugly, because there's more. But, moving on. Now, this might sound a little picky, but music is under the bad list. Now, is the music terrible? Not really, but it gets so repetitive. It has the same shit playing over and over in the hub, and almost every soundtrack in a match sound like your generic superhero song. There is no diversity when it comes to music on this game. It's always superhero, and then the hub has some 80s porn music. Jesus Christ. What is going on? This music's driving me insane. Again, this does sound nitpicky, but Jesus, when you play this game, it will drive into your brain. You will start to hum the beats, even though you don't like the beat. Now, since we're talking about the hub, let's talk about the hub even more. The hub, oh boy, everything is scattered everywhere. It is so unorganized. It can be so confusing. There are 4 shops in the hub. 4 with different clothing for each shop. Why is that a thing? It should be 4 shops with every item, not some items here and there. All of them in one place. I don't know why they did that, but it's like that. Help me. Finally, the last thing I would put under the bad list is some questionable characters that are in the roster. Like, for instance, Kaguya. Now, that wouldn't be an issue if they gave us more characters like they did in J-Star's Victory Versus 1. I believe there was like 50 characters on launch, so compare that to this. And I know we're getting DLC characters, but come on. How are they gonna put Kaguya in, but not the main villain of Naruto, Madara Uchiha? It doesn't make no sense. Anyway, moving on. Let's quickly summarize what we just went through. Music, poorly optimized game, bad hub, questionable characters in the roster. Let's go to ugly. Oh boy. Starting off, the story. It is very tedious. It took me 17 hours to beat. And normally you'd be like, oh, 17 hours? That's actually pretty good. Lots of content. But no, not this time. It is long for no reason. They stretch it out for reasons that I cannot explain, to make it seem like the game has more than it really does, because it is just the same thing, the same plot, the same story as every other anime game. An evil clone fighting you, you have to beat them. The plot twist isn't really a plot twist because you really kind of know who the main villain is. You get the kind of story I'm talking about. But wait, there's more. Inside that story mode, there is some really questionable CPU BS that is going on in this game. And this isn't the first time I've seen it in a Bandai game, but they made the CPU really broken and cheap to the point where you have to play cheap against cheap. That is how you are playing story mode at some of these points in the game. Now, yes, it can be challenging, but at the same time, it makes it annoying. Like, it's not hard because the CPU is just so well designed. They're just so broken, you have to play differently. Whether it's them spamming, whether it's them having a large amount of damage. And then to make things even more cheap and broken, they read your button inputs to the bone. You try to do an ultimate, they be like, nah, I did my ultimate too, but then mine is stronger, so it'll break through your one and destroy you. That is how it is. That is how it is. And oh, it gets worse. It gets worse. When you lose and you retry, not only is the retry on no, so you have to scroll up first to press yes, you have to load to retry. There's a loading screen to retry, so you have to hold that L for like a minute before you get to try again, which is insane. Why is there a loading screen to retry the shit? I don't know, but since we're talking about loading, oh my goodness, the loading in this game. When I was talking about badly optimized game from the bad list, I saved this for the ugly, because this is like top tier, one of the worst things in this game, because it's so, you see it so frequently. You see it when you turn the game on, when you load into the hub, when you leave the hub, get to the cutscene, leave the cutscene, go to the character selection screen, leave the character selection screen, when you die, when you when you win, you eat, sleep, shit, loading screens. Everything. It is always a loading screen. Oh my god, it's annoying, and I just wanna, I wanna kill it. But wait, there's more. To add a cherry on top, you cannot currently, when I was playing, you could not skip no cutscenes, nothing. You had to watch everything, and then there's more loading. So it was like, oh, this is torture. So you're sitting playing a really tedious story mode with broken CPU, with long loadings, and no skipping cutscenes. I'm sure they're gonna fix the loadings sometime in the future and maybe give us the skip button. But oh man, it can be tedious. That is the keyword for this ugly list. Tedious. Now the next thing I want to mention is cutscenes again, but this time it is the cutscenes with no voices and just text. Let me tell you the issue here. You have cutscenes, right, with voices and text, but it just talks to you about the objective that you really don't care about, and then you have real interactions with two shonen characters talking to each other, but no voices and just text. Why? It should be the other way around, but it's not, which is really strange. And it's just like, wow, they put in actual cutscenes of a guy I don't really know, this director, I don't really care about him. Why does he have a voice? Don't get me wrong, there is some parts where the shonen characters will interact, but it's not enough. It's like you see better interactions in the dialogue where there's no voices. Like, wow, why is this separate from the main cutscenes? Anyway, moral of this is it just makes it more tedious because you're just sitting there reading instead of listening to your two favorite characters talking to each other. So that just makes it feel even longer. Why can't every cutscene have voices? Anyway, next on the list is poor animations, mainly for the cutscenes and the hub somewhat, because these animations be looking funky. Walking looks kind of strange in the hub and in the cutscenes. They all move like puppets being controlled by some dark entity that we don't know about. Anyway, it's crazy because it's not like that in the actual fights, only in the cutscenes and in the hub. Hold on, scratch that, I lied. There is one weird animation in the matches, and that is the Naruto run. Everyone that has the Naruto run looks cringy. When I say the Naruto run looks like someone in real life is trying to do the Naruto run, that's what it looks like. Like, you're not supposed to do that kind of run. Why are you running like that? It does that. It's like, ugh, I don't want to run like that. It's so weird that the way they run. You don't want to choose that character sometimes. Like, I made a ninja class. I played it in the tutorial. I'm like, why is he running like that? Ugh. I deleted that save file and made a new class. That's how bad it was. Anyway, that's kind of a nitpick, but that is the only weird animation for the fights. But most of it is just in the cutscenes and hub. Now, this might get fixed. I don't know, but these action figure-like movements cannot be ignored. So I gotta put them in a list. Moving on. Next, we're gonna be talking about the lack of online features. Now, what do I mean by that? What do you mean by that? Let me tell you what I mean by that. If I want to play online with my friend, right, there's no actual lobby for my friend and me to be sitting in to play over and over again. All there is you hosting a room, not even a room, you hosting a space, and you inviting that person into your space while you load in this infinite loading screen. Don't forget, you gotta invite them first. So you invite them, you wait, they join, you fight, win or lose. After that, it's done. There is no run back, there is no rematch. Goodbye, hold that L if you lost, and remake the whole thing again. That is tedious. This whole game just loves to be long and tedious. I do not know why. This tedious stuff needs to be stopped. It's like they're punishing you for playing with your friends, so you gotta almost play by yourself. Unless you're willing to make a room every game on top of the super frequent loading screens, then I guess it wouldn't be much of an issue for you. But for me, it is. So that was pretty much it for the good, bad, and ugly. I know it sounded like there was a lot more bad and ugly, and there was, but because the gameplay is kind of fun, you might be able to put up with all that mess that I just talked about. For how long, I'm not sure. The scale does seem to tip more on the bad side, but because the gameplay is pretty fun right now and it works, once you get past the story mode, and they're probably going to fix the loading screens and all that stuff that I mentioned, once that's all ironed out, then it should be more of a fun experience. As for a review score, when it comes to the story, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. When it comes to the gameplay, the actual fights, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. So overall, I'd say 5 out of 10, which is an average for me. Is it worth full retail price? In its current state, no. I would wait for a price drop. But if you're just down to fight and not care about the story mode, if you can look past all those issues and wait for a patch for them to fix, if you were into Storm games in the past and you kind of need a fix for a new brawler game, this might be something you want to look into. Again, all these things are subject to change because this is before the official release from the early access from the Ultimate Edition. Let's see if these things get cleaned up. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you for watching. This is ShikasClouds, and I will see you guys next time. You were just watching a long ass loading screen. Beat.